Good evening. I hope today we'll be able to effectively discuss the subject yoga teaching. Now, it's rather a topical subject to many people because the world is gradually changing and yoga teaching becomes one of the rather successful activities, as the people who succeed in this field can implement the background they have. So, let's see what questions we have. Who can become a yoga teacher? In fact, any person who has primary education can become a yoga teacher. If you are going to get a certificate, it's one form of training. If you aren't going to get it, it's another form of training. At least, that's what we have on our yoga teacher training course. If you want to get Russian certificate, you must have any diploma of secondary education, vocational education or higher education. If you have a diploma, you can take our course, because our course is intended to upgrade the skills. So, we don't give education as such, but only upgrade the skills you have already got. If you feel that your vocation is to be a yoga teacher, teaching as such resonates with you, you want to gain knowledge in this field and to share it with others in the future, so you are welcome. The next question. What skills should a student have? Of course, if you have some initial training, that's good. Our students are usually divided into two parts. Those who take the course in order to become a yoga teacher and to pass on knowledge, and those who receive knowledge about yoga teaching for themselves. Roughly speaking, they increase their level of practice and their level of knowledge, but it's an open question whether they will teach yoga. So, there are some people who take yoga teacher training course without the intention to become a teacher. But honestly, if you carefully listen to the lectures during the course, you will become a teacher and start teaching. And it's no matter what age you are. You may be young, middle-aged, or an elder person. During the course, we talk a lot about motivation. That is, why you need to teach yoga and how you will benefit from teaching. At least, I spend a lot of time to motivate a person and help him or her to stay on the path. It may even seem that we create the competitors for ourselves in business terms. But if you understand what yoga is and why people suddenly get interested in yoga teaching, you will understand that there are no consequences. And you only think that this topic became interesting for you and you decided to start this path. In fact, if we take a broader view, the concept of past lives, which is relevant in yoga to some extent, is directly related to teaching. So, you will learn why this motivation occurs, at least during the teaching courses we have. I try to explain the point of teaching of each person who probably thinks that his level is not enough for teaching. So, we need to touch on an important topic. It's called past lives, and it explains some nuances. For example, in our club, we have 15, 20, 30, or let's say 100 good yoga teachers who give wonderful lectures, conduct excellent yoga classes, and make great workshops. But if a visitor or a workshop, a lecture or a class doesn't have a karmic connection with the teacher, he can't take anything from this class. He will not even hear the essence. He will listen to it and decide that this is some strange stuff and he will go better the other way. Such things happen and this is perfectly normal, because a person can hear only the words of a teacher who can convey the essence to him. So, only those who have a karmic connection with the listener can convey the essence to him. There is a saying, it goes in one ear and out the other. This saying is about the situation when a person hears something but doesn't remember anything because he and the teacher have no karmic connection. Maybe this doesn't exist for those who haven't faced the concept of reincarnation yet and think that I'm telling some strange esoteric things, but I see the guys who start this path and confidently follow it. So, the experience shows that the guys stay on the path of yoga teaching for a long time, don't lose the essence of teaching, and don't get carried away by some other new things, only if they begin this path realizing why they do it. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Well, let's see what questions the guys ask. They write, "Good evening." Okay, good evening. I have already begun to answer the questions. The first question. Tell me please how to make a donation to you in order to thank you for this stream. You can go to our website om.ru and at the bottom of the web page, you'll see the column About Us. Click Your Help. There you can find bank details and make a donation if you think that it's necessary. Let's move on. The next question. Thank you for the stream. May I take second-year training course if I'm not working as yoga teacher now? I finished yoga teacher training course of the first year and now I'm working actively in social networks. It's a tough question. It's better to discuss it privately. I don't see the name of a person who asked this question. The name of the user is Vegetarian Cuisine. I have a rough idea who is the author of that question. So, during the second year of training, we study all the nuances of yoga teaching. Until you try to teach yoga, you won't understand the specificity of this activity. And you won't understand the things we often talk about during this yoga teacher training course. It's important to have some experience of yoga teaching, so that you have tried to communicate with people, give some knowledge to them, and feel how it influences your energy. We discuss how to restore energy, awareness, and domination that you had. Whether you like it or not, public speaking influences you just like you influence someone else. So, if you help someone to realize something, keep in mind that you'll have to compensate for it in some way to restore the energy you spent. That's why it's better to try yoga teaching and then take a course. But if you work actively promoting vegetarianism on the internet, it can be considered as a social activity when you also deal with energy. So, send an email to me. Probably we'll make an exception for you and allow you to take the course. The next question. Is summer course only for yoga teachers? Yes, it's only for yoga teachers, as I've already said. Tatiana Novitskaya asks the question. Can I teach my daughter the basics of yoga and meditation? If your daughter is conscious, if she wants to do yoga and she's old enough, yes, you can. If she is a child and she doesn't demonstrate a great desire to understand these issues, it's better not to do it. Let her accumulate her own childish experience. Then, probably, in future, she'll come to it herself. But it's perfectly normal if you teach your daughter when she's old enough. Most likely, you teach her practical wisdom, so why not to share the knowledge about yoga with her? So, it's surely perfectly normal. Svetlana asks a question: how to get rid of selfishness and to live for the benefit of others? Svetlana, it's not about the subject of this lecture. But nevertheless, surprisingly, yoga teaching helps to get rid of ego very much. Because yoga teaching as such means giving the energy whether you like it or not. So, you accumulate some energy, make it more subtle so that you'll have not raw energy but subtle energy. And you go to conduct a class with this energy. When you conduct a class, you give this energy to people. So, then you need to restore it. One may think that when you give your energy, it's not good. But a person can receive your energy only if you have a karmic connection with him. Moreover, when you give something to somebody, actually, you don't lose it. You just pay back the debts you've accumulated. From this point of view, this is one of the best forms of life in the society because, on the one hand, you will feel your destiny, share something positive with people, positive energy or positive knowledge, no matter. At the same time, you share it almost with your own reflection. Probably it's a difficult theme. I can't develop it now. But the point is that the people who will appear in front of you on the path of yoga are your own reflection in one form or another. Roughly speaking, you communicate with yourself. The more you do for a person, the more will return back to you. Alexander Zamarev asks a question: if I got high-level knowledge, should I share it with the students, or is it necessary to give the knowledge only according to the student's level? It depends on the situation. And what do you mean by high-level knowledge? It's a broad term and it can be interpreted in various ways. You get the knowledge that helps you to be conscious on the path of self-development. If this knowledge can also help someone to be more conscious, share it, no problem, but keep in mind, a person may be not ready to get some knowledge. Let me give you an example. A person comes to yoga class at fitness club to do stretching. The teacher begins to tell him about vegetarianism. But now this person doesn't need it at all. He will hardly understand it. On the contrary, he will say that this is just a strange yoga teacher who promotes some sectarian concepts because there are people who are not ready to hear that. If you burden him with the knowledge that he doesn't need, he won't hear you. So, if a person comes to you with some questions and you tell him about the essence, answering the questions, this is acceptable. But it's just incorrect to impose something on someone. So, you shouldn't do so. Okay, let's move on. The question: Andrey, could you advise how to get rid of the connection with the magicians who take my energy for their passions? Don't worry about it. Anyone can take anything that he or she shouldn't take from you. If a person who, in your opinion, takes something from you appears, keep in mind that you did the same thing in the past. So, guys, please ask the questions connected with the subject we discuss. Alexander asked the question: what is necessary to open the representation of your club in the other town? Alexander, there is nothing complicated if you have taken our yoga teacher training course. On our website, we have a special section, the so-called map of the regions. There's a special form there. So you should fill in the form and send it. Alexander gets it and takes your personal data that is necessary to get from you as from our representative. Then he puts your data on the map. But there's an important point. On our website, we can post information only about the yoga teachers we are sure of. I mean those who have completed our training course. You can ask, why are you so conservative? I'll explain. Very different things are taught in different studios and clubs. Sometimes they can be diametrically opposed, and we can't advertise any type of yoga on our website if we are not sure of the result this type of yoga will give. That's why we advertise only the guys we are sure of. So, we are sure of a person completed our training, but nevertheless, he is interested in some other things. He may say, to put it mildly, something unique on his workshops. But this is his choice and karma. We advise the guys when they conduct their workshops to tell about the things we give on our yoga teacher training course, because the things we give on the training course are safe for the people practicing yoga. It's not some experiments. It's time-tested techniques that lead to certain good results. And Alexander writes that now he's studying on our half-year yoga teacher training course. So, if you find some of our yoga teachers in your town and team up with them, then you'll be able to do it together. The most important thing is that you should be competent in the issues you are going to teach others. Dmitry asks the question, what is the difference between winter-intensive and summer-intensive yoga teacher's course? What are the advantages of each of them? They are very similar. I guess the only difference is that it's warmer in summer and you can live in a tent. But the program is almost the same. So it's your choice. Choose what will be more comfortable for you. Sergey Yeremin asks the question, do you get pleasure from teaching in this incarnation? Are you happy now? Sergey, a question about happiness as such is rather difficult. Try to move away from it gradually, but in fact, if you have the opportunity to do what you do from life to life, perhaps it's the most important thing a person can have. However, it's not the easiest path, especially if you have a negative attitude to life. You don't do yoga for yourself and don't spend time at the resort to get pleasure and feel comfortable. When you have to manage the club and spend 20 hours a day on club activities, of course, sometimes you just don't have enough life energy. On the other hand, when you look at the past years and see how many guys have achieved their potential in the club and continue to bring adequate knowledge, this justifies all the stress you have ever experienced. Therefore, from this point of view, it may be called happiness to some extent, although everything depends on a specific person very much. The next question. Good evening. Could you recommend good yoga teacher training course in Almaty, Kazakhstan? We have a representation in Almaty. Yakov Fishman and some other guys represent our club. They don't conduct the course, although I wonder why they haven't organized it yet. You can take our online course. And as for the courses in Almaty, I just don't know about it. Consult with Yakov. You can find his contacts on the website om.ru in the section Regions, where our representations are indicated. We have guys from Almaty who take online course. So, people watch lectures in real time. They can ask the questions and they're answered. It's convenient. You don't need to go anywhere. You can stay at home and watch all the lectures. Moreover, we provide a record. When you have watched the lecture one time during the stream, you can watch this lecture again 3 times at your convenience during the month. I think no one else in Russia provides such a service. So, you can try to take online training course. Daniel asks the question, I work in a prison, and it takes all my energy. Sometimes I don't understand how I got there. I want to become a yoga teacher, but I'm afraid to be without livelihood. What should I do? That's a good question. I don't think that someone who also works in prison took our training course, but I know exactly that the guys who wrote me some time ago do yoga being imprisoned. And they asked me about yoga. I was even surprised. Apparently, they have the access to the internet. So they use it and do yoga. One of them even sent me photos of the place he prepared for yoga practice. So he had a mat and did yoga there. Nevertheless, as for the lack of livelihood, yes, this is a topical subject. At first, people combine their main job and yoga teaching. You can begin to conduct yoga classes just 2 or 3 times a week. And if you feel that you succeed in it and can earn your living teaching yoga, then you can leave your so-called main job and engage only in yoga teaching. Most people do so. The next question, again from Almaty. Is yoga teacher training course conducted only in Moscow, or can we come to you to receive training? As for the intensive course, of course, you can come to us. For example, we conduct a course during the holidays in January in Yaroslavl region, and one girl from Kazakhstan came to us and completed our intensive course. So that's possible. Nikita asked the question, what's the difference between starting yoga teaching at the age of 20 and at the age of 30 or 40? Nikita, that's a good question. People at the age of 50 or 60 often ask about it. They doubt if they'll succeed. I'll tell you about my observations. The older a person is, the more likely he or she will remain on the path of yoga teaching. Unfortunately, there are a lot of young guys who don't fully understand why they need yoga teaching. They can be excited about yoga teaching, but give up it after 2 or 3 years and do yoga only on their own. Probably most of them will return to the path of yoga, but such breaks when people give up yoga teaching really happen. But based on my observations, the older yoga teachers have worldly wisdom that helps them not to make the mistakes the beginners usually make. Nevertheless, young yoga teachers have more life energy to implement some projects, perhaps hurriedly and with certain idealism. Older people are more sedate and sluggish. They need something more stable. But in fact, everyone finds something of his own. I'll give you one vivid example. There's one yoga teacher in Moscow. Now she's about 70 years old, but a few years ago she created an interesting advertisement. She's from Yakutia. She was 60-something, but her appearance and the photo in the passport looked like she was maximum 35 or 40 years old. She looks very young. She has no wrinkles. And her advertisement was very simple. The photo in the passport showing her age and the inscription. If you want to look like me at the age of 60, come to my yoga classes. Paradoxically, this advertisement was very successful. Yes, mostly older people came to her classes, but she always had a full house. So, she's a rather active woman and she succeeds in yoga teaching. I know some other older people who teach yoga. One man by the name Skakun implemented vigorous activity in Stavropol a few years ago. I think now he also continues doing it. He conducts yoga classes in a large hall. It's like a basketball court. Can you imagine that? So many people come to his yoga classes, also mainly older people. And there's no place left. The person has huge popularity, and I think he's about 60 years old. Therefore, age is not an impediment. The main difference is that young people have more energy, but older people have more wisdom and more awareness in their activity. So every teacher finds his audience and works with them. And Nikita continues, on the one hand, older people have more life experience and young people have less experience. What would be the advantage of a young yoga teacher? As I said, they have more life energy. They also have less karmic debts. Young yoga teachers have better stretching than older teachers, but the lectures of older teachers are better. So probably there's a balance. As they say, unity in diversity. Ksenia asked the question, I've been doing yoga for 4 years. Can I become a yoga teacher if I can't do Padmasana? Ksenia, Padmasana doesn't really matter. Padmasana is a specific asana which you will need for some energy practices, not even for meditation. You will need Padmasana for energy transformation in pranayama. But I advise you to watch the movie Anatomy for Yoga with Paul Greeley. We have already 3 parts of this movie in Russian on our website. Type into the search bar on our website Anatomy for Yoga with Paul Greeley and find these videos. The website is called video.om.ru. Please watch these videos. This teacher from the US says very sensible things. He says that it's pointless to make people do asanas in the way you do. He gives the examples of anatomy. Let's say the thigh bones of different people are connected to the pelvis in different ways. So a femoral neck can be connected to the pelvis at different angles. That's why there are people who do the splits or, for example, Padmasana very easily. And there are people for whom it would be physically difficult. People also have different knee joints. That's why it's not necessary to do Padmasana or some other asanas. Moreover, now there are some types of yoga where the teachers require the so-called proper body alignment in asanas. But it's proper alignment from their point of view. So, a yoga teacher believes that there's only one way to do an asana correctly. Of course, I also advise such teachers to watch Anatomy for Yoga with Paul Greeley, because it makes no sense to make a person do asana in the way you can do them. The essence of yoga is not about it. Moreover, if you look at the bigger picture, the essence of yoga is not the asanas at all. Asana is only a little part of self-discovery. Actually, a yoga teacher should teach his or her students to understand themselves better, and asana is only one component of the wide range of tools that people can use. This range also includes some breathing practices or, for example, overcoming some of the constraints that a person has. Someone gets rid of the addictions that deprive him of life, and yoga also helps him. So, understand, asanas don't bring happiness, and Padmasana doesn't really matter. Then Ksenia tells that she has some physiological problems, and the doctors say that she may never do this asana, but I've already said that there are no problems. If you want to bring knowledge and teach people, it's just great. Anastasia asked the question. I've been doing yoga almost for 2 years. From the first day, I realized that I wanted to become a yoga teacher. But I'm afraid not to meet the expectations of the students. Well, this is logical. If you have already completed some yoga teacher training course and you know how to teach, then overcome your fear and begin to teach. From this point of view, we have created our yoga teacher training course so that future yoga teachers learn to show asanas to each other and explain how to do them almost at every class, probably at 70% of the classes. Different people are always involved in it. Someone does it at will, someone is highly recommended to do it. Nevertheless, during the training, every teacher learns to talk to the audience about the techniques of performing the asanas and possible contraindications or cautions. Thus, a yoga teacher gains courage to take the first step. Therefore, there is nothing to fear. If you feel that something inside you says that it will be positive, then try to do it. Try to conduct a yoga class not for a large audience, but invite 1 or 2 friends to your apartment and conduct a yoga class for them. At least start with that. Gradually, you'll gain confidence in the things you do and begin to teach well. But again, before you begin to teach, you should complete yoga teacher training course. And I can't say that our courses are the best. This is a very important point, please understand. About 200 or 300 people are watching this stream now. Then, for example, some amount of people will also watch this video. And each of them is at a certain stage of development. The vector of development and the speed of movement that we have at our club, for example, may be too complicated for someone. Then perhaps this person should look around for some other yoga clubs or schools where something will resonate with him and he will realize that he would like to practice yoga in the same way. It's very important who is the leading teacher of the course. This is very important. Sometimes I face famous courses as they say everything is just great there. But when I see the names of the people who teach this training course, it's amazing. I can't find any information about these teachers on the internet. Roughly speaking, these are the teachers who don't even put their lectures on the internet. As for me, I would never take such a course. At least you should watch the lectures of the teachers who try to teach others at this or that course. I don't want to say anything bad about others, but keep in mind, it's very important to have a certain resonance with the teachers whom you will learn from, because the certificate you will receive is just a piece of paper with some signatures, stamps that show certain legitimacy. I've looked through my papers recently. I have 5 certificates of different schools where I received training during the last 17 years. These are the training courses where I received certificates, but I took training in much great number of schools, because in my time I was interested in everything about yoga. Why? It's a different story. So, the certificate with signatures and stamps doesn't matter. What matters is a person from whom you learn. It's also important if a yoga club provides support for their students. That is, how it can help a particular yoga teacher to succeed. I can tell you how our club usually helps yoga teachers. We have a very good project, Yoga Wave, in which we suggest our yoga teachers from Moscow, other regions or countries conduct 1 or 2 hour yoga practice or lecture in their hometown, in their yoga studio or an apartment. We provide the technical capability to webcast it all over the world, and a rather large number of people usually watch it. Moreover, some teachers record their lectures or practices and put them on the internet. So, the first option is the project Yoga Wave. The second one is Yoga Camp Aura, where you can come with your students in the summer and do yoga there. So, you can go to a camp which is equipped with all necessary facilities. Moreover, we don't profit from it at all, so we don't make money on the yoga teachers who participate, for example, in Yoga Wave. We just provide a platform for their growth, because there are the visitors on our website almost in every city. Thanks to gods, now there are a lot of people who usually go to our website, and our website is a platform for the start of new yoga teachers. So, we have Yoga Wave, Yoga Camp Aura. There's also a good map of the regions on our website, where you can place the information about you. It's on the main page of our website in the section Representations. And we have about 30 or 40 representations. This is also a very good platform because people almost from every region of Russia go to our website every day. To make it clear, I'll tell you what site traffic we have, although probably this is not publicly available information. So, we have good site traffic. I won't give you specific figures as they are not indicated on our website. So, if the teachers of the club or the school where you're going to take training are adequate and not embarrassed to put their lectures on the internet and you can watch it, then of course you've made a good choice. But, once again, sometimes I face amazing things when yoga teacher training courses are conducted by the people who are indirectly related to yoga, so to speak. And some information about them cannot be found on the internet. I don't even understand how that's possible and who takes such courses. Maybe they do it just because of the name of this course. It isn't serious from my point of view. Anastasia asked the question, I heard that a yoga teacher should be silent when he does an asana at class, and it's necessary to show how to align the body in an asana before doing it. Are there any sources where I can read about it? Anastasia, you'll hardly find the information about it because I've never heard this peculiar version. Perhaps some schools do even such peculiar things, but from my point of view, this is a little bit strange position. Valentine asked the question, I want to do yoga, how to get to classes? I'm a beginner. Valentine, personally, I don't teach asanas of Hatha Yoga, but we have a good website, asanaonline.ru, where certified yoga teachers conduct classes at different times. So you can type asanaonline.ru in the search bar and find our website and try to do yoga there. We also have 2 representations in Moscow. One of them is located in the northeast of Moscow near metro station Smelovskaya, and the second one is in the south. I don't remember exactly where it is. In my opinion, it's near metro station Konkovo. So, there are 2 studios where yoga teachers who have completed our course conduct classes. If you are from Moscow, you can try their classes. The next question. What basic skills and knowledge should I have in order to take your training course? We have no exams which people usually have to pass in order to begin yoga teacher training. I find it a little strange when a person has to pass the exams and they allow him to take a course only on the basis of his knowledge and skills. I always ask such teachers, why are you doing that? Can you really determine on the basis of a person's flexibility if he or she will be able to become a good yoga teacher? A flexible gymnast and a good yoga teacher are completely different things. For example, a flexible gymnast comes to such teachers and they will tell him, oh, what a good level of training you have. But a flexible body is indirectly related to yoga. It's more important how the man is developed as a person, how many lives he is on the path of self-development, how much he is aware of what he is trying to do. It's also important what energy a person has. It directly affects what yoga teacher he'll become. I'll tell you one thing. When people sign up for our yoga teacher training, of course, we conduct an interview to identify the people who have the purpose in life that is inconsistent with yoga teaching. So, we have to make a certain selection. Because there are some categories of people on this planet who are not recommended to practice yoga. I don't want to go into details. People who do yoga understand what categories of people I'm talking about. I mean the people who have certain mental problems. They are not recommended to practice yoga. So we have drop out only on this indicator. But flexibility, skills and knowledge change. Moreover, if you begin to teach yoga, your flexibility will also change. Your flexibility will depend on the fact how active you are. These things are interrelated. That's why the flexibility you have when you start yoga teacher's training course and flexibility you'll have in 10 years are not always the same things. From this point of view, flexibility is not important at all. So, if you believe that our course is right for you, so you're welcome. The next question: how to develop harmoniously combining yoga teaching and family? It's not a problem. There are many families where one of the spouses is a yoga teacher, and they live harmoniously, because a teacher as such serves the society in global terms. That's true, whether you like it or not, because the person who does yoga will hardly use bad language, break bottles on the beach, or litter. So he's more conscious. Therefore, the life of a person who does yoga is more environmentally friendly. If you look around, you'll see that's true. People who practice yoga live much more consciously, much more environmentally friendly in global terms. So, when a yoga teacher helps other people live more consciously, even teaching only Hatha yoga, it's great support for the society. Each teacher literally supports the society so that people can live adequately. From this point of view, this is service. There's another important point. It often happens that a wife is a yoga teacher and your husband earns money, supports their family, and helps his wife to continue yoga teaching because at the beginning, during the first year, a new yoga teacher is unlikely to be able to earn enough money. But it often happens that after some time, the wife who is a yoga teacher will earn more money than her husband, who works somewhere else, because if a person becomes a qualified yoga teacher, people who will attend only his classes will gradually appear around him. This person begins to conduct good workshops and some retreats. And if it's well organized financially, a yoga teacher can get good money. But I mean big cities. Of course, in the regions, yoga teachers earn much less. Besides, online yoga teaching is becoming more and more popular, and it will be developed very well after a while. So, if you can conduct online classes even in a small town or region, most importantly, you should have good internet access. Then it will be quite successful after a while. And we also develop it in our club. Our project, Asana Online, has already become quite successful. That's why combining family and yoga isn't a problem at all. On the contrary, yoga brings peace to our family. So the families have fewer quarrels, and more awareness. There are many examples of yoga families that were created on the path of yoga. Probably, these families are the most stable. I hope I've answered your question. Maria Morozova asked the question: in the second year, yoga teacher training course conducted only in summer? Yes, it's only in summer. We don't plan to conduct it at another time, at least this year, and then we'll see. The second year, training is held at a good time in summer, so it's better to receive training in summer. Yuri asked the question: I want to conduct Om Mantra meditation. Tell me please how to start, what to tell people, and how much time to chant the mantra. The beginners may come. Yuri, type Andrey Verba Om Mantra into the search bar on our website videoom.ru. You'll find some video lectures on this topic. Watch them carefully. During the lectures, I explain in detail how to chant it, how to practice it in a group. That's all. Or better yet, go to a center where people practice Om Mantra and talk to a yoga teacher who practices this mantra and try to adopt his models of teaching. Anastasia Shatskih. I'm looking forward to start yoga teaching, but I'll be able to take training course only in summer. Can I start doing the first steps without training if I'm ready to understand all the nuances? Yes, this is possible. If you find a yoga teacher who will help you to create safe yoga sequence for students, so you should create a neutral and easy yoga sequence together with him. When the teacher confirms that no one gets hurt from this sequence, then take and replicate it at first. So, you can teach, but most importantly, you should be responsible for the safety of your sequence of asanas, so that no one will get hurt. It's the most important thing, and it's better to coordinate it with a good leading yoga teacher. I'm sure you can find such a teacher around. Anastasia, I know you communicate with our club not the first time because your name is familiar for me. So, you must know Ekaterina Androsova. Write to her. She will certainly help you create such yoga sequence. So, you can gradually begin to teach yoga. Victoria asked the question, what materials is it better to use to prepare for express training course? You should also write to Ekaterina Androsova. She'll send you a list of materials that we usually recommend to study and try gradually to prepare. Larissa asked the question, is a person who has become the teacher of the club Om.ru allowed to cooperate with the yoga teachers of other schools? Yes, of course, no problem. Please understand that it's not a problem whether you'll cooperate or not, but if you live especially in some regions, I recommend uniting with the representatives of other schools. It will be easier for you to succeed as yoga teachers together. Moreover, when you take our training course, we give you basic information and knowledge that are international among different schools and types of yoga. We don't require you to teach only what we have given you. We give you a choice. We give the basis which complies with the standards of International Yoga Federation. It's a large organization that has representations approximately in 70 countries in the world. And I think they also have several thousand clubs or even tens of thousands of clubs. They have recently written to me that there are more than 10,000 representations only in India. So we give the basis, but what you will study and how you will teach later is your choice. I mean, if, for example, you think that you need something else, it's not a problem. You can use something else in your teaching activity. I'll give you an example of Ekaterina Androsova, whom I was talking about. Some time ago, she began to study Vinyasa Flow Yoga, and now she teaches Vinyasa Flow on the website asanaonline.ru. What does it mean? It's dynamic sequences of basically dynamic asanas, which are linked together. She thought that she liked it then, and she is a leading teacher and teaches this type of yoga. There is nothing complicated about it, and it doesn't contradict anything. So, Alla, you can cooperate, no problem. Alexander asked the question, how to inspire others to start the path of self-development and become a yoga teacher? Alexander, be an example to others. So, show your own example, which will generate interest of others, and people will want to learn from you. It's pointless to come to people and say, I want to benefit you, I believe you need to do yoga. They just won't understand you, and moreover, you'll often spend your energy irrationally. It's better to share the knowledge of yoga only when people ask you some questions. Of course, it doesn't happen immediately. But when you succeed as a yoga teacher and begin, for example, to record your lectures and put them on the internet, then people will surely begin to ask questions on the internet. It's no matter what level you have as a yoga teacher. It's amazing, but you'll find your audience. I often watch teachers who have the middle level, so they're still in the growth process. Nevertheless, they find their audience who want to communicate with them. As they say, it's coming connections. These people ask them interesting questions and they communicate. Tatyana Novitskaya. Andrey, now I'm taking yoga teachers training course online. Would you recommend to take the exams online, or is it better to come to you? I think it's better to come. At least there are a lot of guys who see each other for the first time, so during half a year we conduct online training. You can hear the questions and see other students in the mirror. And when you come, you can meet them in person. It's usually interesting. Moreover, we usually organize some large collective practices. For example, we chant Om mantra together. We also hold some other events. It's quite positive. That's why it's better to come. If you live far away from Moscow, maybe it's difficult. On the other hand, two men came to exam of teacher's course from Canada last year. They had a very long flight, but nevertheless they decided to come. And people usually come from different countries. It's better to come if you have an opportunity. If it's impossible, take the exam online, no problem. What type of training courses, in your opinion, is more effective for further yoga teaching? Do you mean online half-year training course and intensive course? It's different for different people. At one time, I collected statistics about the fact how the guys pass the exam. On the one hand, people who take an intensive course pass the exam better. We have point system. People can get a certain number of points answering the questions. There's nothing complicated. We give the so-called questionnaires. There are 4 choices for each question. A person should answer a question by putting a tick. And there are a certain number of questions there. It's about 20 or 30 or maybe 40, I don't remember exactly. And we can calculate how many points the student gets. In fact, people who take intensive course have better test results. On the other hand, people who take a half-year course can understand the theory better because they write the so-called essays. This is not entirely correct name, but we got accustomed to it for some reason. What does it mean? After the students have listened a series of lectures, we suggest that they choose one of the lecture and write a review on it. So, they write an essay on the topic of this lecture, and when they study the subject additionally and outline their thoughts, they understand this topic better. People who take an intensive course don't have such an opportunity. At the end of the course, we suggest that they write something on one of the subjects at their discretion, and they write if they want. That's why it's difficult to answer. Different people have different living conditions and circumstances. One of the courses is just physically impossible for someone. Some people choose an intensive course to save time, so to speak. Both options are good. Experience has shown that each course has certain nuances which suit different people. Kenje Izhanov. Hello. Can I begin to teach yoga without a certificate, but with the help of knowledge in this field from past lives? I've known that I'll practice and teach yoga since I was a child. I've already answered this question. You better discuss it with an experienced yoga teacher from your city or region. It's better if you communicate with him in real time and he will advise you how to do it with minimal risk of injury for the students. Because you can create completely different yoga sequences. You can create a sequence of certain asanas and your students will have problems. But you can create the other sequence from the same asanas and there will be no problems at all. The main thing is to create a good basic sequence which you will give. And this person should tell you about the principles of yoga injury prevention, so that, most importantly, you won't hurt anyone. It's a certain basis. Anastasia asked the question, how to teach if I have strong fatigue and susceptibility since childhood? When there are large numbers of people around, I feel dizzy. It's difficult for me to be around people and feel their energy and thoughts on me. You should just train, it's a fact. I know the cases when the guys who had some difficulties at the beginning of teaching became excellent yoga teachers. So they had to put a lot of effort to overcome themselves and their limitations. They put 2 or 3 times more efforts to get to the mat in front of the audience and begin to teach. It was so difficult that they even sweated very much, felt nervous and so on. But it was these people who became excellent teachers, could work with large audience, and their teaching was highly successful. Therefore, you should just overcome yourself. Probably this is your path. I mean your path as the path of a yogi, because yogis must overcome certain limitations. And maybe overcoming it, you'll overcome your limitations too. Julia asked the question, is it necessary to get the additional skills in a specific type of yoga, for example, aerial yoga, after completing your yoga teacher's training course? What is aerial yoga? Do you mean yoga in the hammocks? I don't understand this. As for the answer to the question, no. We don't teach to hang in the hammocks. And if you think that someone needs to hang in the hammocks, to be honest, it's strange. If you tell people in India that someone hangs in the hammocks and calls it yoga, they just don't understand you. The development in yoga is possible if you endure austerity and have certain limitations. When the whole class is focused only on stretching and there are no physical loading, it can't be an integrated approach to yoga. This yoga in the hammocks must be combined with some other physical loadings. So if you think that you need to teach yoga in the hammocks, you should go to a special school and take training there, if they have such courses. The next question. Are there any representatives of the club Om.ru in Rostov-on-Don? I think yes. According to the information on our website, there's Artem Rudakov there, but I'm sure there's not only Artem. There are also some other guys there. I've just gone to the website om.ru, and in the section Representations I've seen that there's Artem Rudakov in Rostov-on-Don. Nadezhda asked a question. You've said that at first it's better for a yoga teacher to combine yoga and his main activity. What if my activity is directly connected with meat? Of course, it's a hard case, but you better give up this activity. Nadezhda continues. I'm engaged in sausage production. Is this impossible in my case, as I won't be able to teach the essence of yoga? It's a tough question. Try and write me after some time about your experience that you tried to combine sausage production and yoga teaching and whether you managed to do it. So let's accumulate the experience together. I haven't faced such precedents yet. I suppose that it's possible because your motivation for yoga teaching may be much more considerable and consciousness. Maybe. So everything depends on your intention. Try. Only time will tell. It's wrong to stigmatize a person just because his activity isn't sattvic from the point of view of some scriptures. There's a good saying. There's no saint without a past, no sinner without a future. So maybe you will succeed. Kurman Jamir. Andrey, what is your knowledge based on? Is it based only on books and teachers? Has the practice given you a confirmation that your worldview is true? It's a good question, of course. My worldview, which, for example, was formed over the past 25 years, I think even more than 25 years. So, it happens not only to me, but to any person. When any person is interested in different information about self-development and yoga, this information is formed like in a kaleidoscope. So a person is gathering information of different schools, types of yoga and different teachers. At some point, if he continues to develop, he systematizes it. And one day he'll put together this inner puzzle that will allow him to understand what yoga is from his point of view at this stage of his development. But it's a fact that my perception of yoga I have now changed in the past, and is still changing now, and I'm sure that it will change in the future. Your level of development will never be permanent and unchanging. I'm also developing, I'm also evolving, and it's very interesting for me as for a lecturer what lectures I'll give in 20 years, because I know what lectures I read 10 or 20 years ago and what lectures I'm reading now. So I wonder what lectures I'll give in 20 years when, for example, I'll be close to 70. It's very interesting. Soon I'll be 50 years old, and I wonder what will be at the age of 70. Probably then I'll give good lectures, better than now, because I just see the dynamics of my development. So in this case, you can base on everything. At some point, of course, you remember the knowledge you cultivated from life to life, but it happens if you do yoga trying to understand its essence, not only changing your external form. You need to do certain internal practices to reveal the body of information you accumulated from life to life. But you can make all this possible. I hope I answered your question. Marat Hasanov asks the question, how should a yoga teacher maintain a relationship with his students who attend different classes? Different classes are at different stages. You will see very different people, especially at the classes which the beginners attend. But I advise all yoga teachers to form a group of long-time students and associates. And the class with this group will be the most dear and precious for you. But actually, this group literally will help you to conduct classes with all the other groups, because you'll spend a lot of energy on the groups of beginners, but have little feedback as people will be different with different energy. But this group, for which you'll conduct classes, let's say twice a week, will literally energize you. It's not bad, it's not vampirism at all. These people don't have the opportunity to help energetically the students who attend your classes. And when you do yoga together with these people, you'll help them to share the energy with others on the path of yoga. So, energetically developed group is necessary. I know from experience that almost every teacher who conducts regular classes forms such a group in 4 or 5 years. So, try to form such a group. Of course, you'll have almost no relationship with the beginners. But your relationship with the guys who become your associates on the path will be very good. You'll be like friends. And I hope you'll hold some events together. Of course, it's different with different groups. The second question. How close our friendly relationship should be? I've already told you about it. It will depend on the level of development of these guys. Nikita Arndt from Germany asks a question. As far as I understand, you have been teaching yoga since the age of 20. How did you manage to teach yoga to accumulate life experience, in particular in the family, and at the same time to remain conscious and not leave the path of yoga? To be honest, at the age of 20, as it usually happens when the relatives told me, Andrey, you should get married, I was pretty sure that I wouldn't do it earlier than I would be 30 years old, because I understood perfectly that a woman in the house is really a big problem. Excuse me, I was joking. But actually, at that time, I understood the problematics of women. Nevertheless, I haven't even thought about this subject until I got the experience when I saw my near future. The woman who would be my wife, I saw the children we would have, and at first I was shocked. I had already known this woman at that time. I realized that it would be extremely difficult to develop a relationship with her. Nevertheless, after about half a year, I came up with the idea that I had seen those events, that's why probably I should help them to be realized. So it wasn't even my choice. I thought it best to accumulate this experience. So I have accumulated it. That was a very good life experience. I think we experienced the whole range of relationships during the years when we were living together. And I'm grateful to her for this experience, and she's also grateful to me. We have 2 adult children. That was really a very good experience. We both were yogis. So she does yoga all her life and I also do yoga all my life. So we had not a typical relationship, we had a yogi family. Then I had a relationship with another woman, but the relationship I had was only with women who do yoga. Now I have children from 2 women, and these women are the leading teachers in their areas. I hope I answered your question. The fact whether you live the path of yoga or not depends not even on the family, but on your intention. What for you create a family? What for you need a partner of the opposite sex? To satisfy some passions and desires? I have just remembered why I had sober attitude to family life. I had one childhood friend, Alexander, and he had phenomenal relationships with women. This example was so illustrative. It made me sober so much. He had short-lived marriages. After the first marriage, he got married again. His family life was so bright, like an explosion of a star in the sky or like a volcano. And due to his example, I realized that this is a very dangerous problem. Nevertheless, if you feel that family can help you on the path of yoga, and I can tell you how it can help. The point is, yoga teacher faces the problem at some stage when he can't transform through his practice all the energy he accumulates during yoga teaching. Sometimes he needs a person of the opposite sex with whom he can try to convert the energy which he can't deal with on his own. He only can allow lovers, the parasites of energy body, to take this energy, and that's all. Then people do it consciously, realizing why this is necessary. Probably I say some things that are not for everyone, but I know Nikita and know how sincerely he moves the path of yoga. That's why I'll tell him about the essence. So, if you realize that only a person of the opposite sex can help you to overcome some energy problems, then think about marriage with all its consequences. But it will be very hard. Pavel asks the question. In some yoga schools, the teachers just injure their students, referring to karma. Yes, it's no secret. Iyengar injured his students. I don't know if he referred to karma or not, but in fact, he broke the spine of his 2 students. And he also caused a lot of sprains because he made his students do the asana in the way he considered proper. So they had a lot of injuries. Perhaps after that, Iyengar yoga began to develop as one of the safest types of yoga because now they're trying to align the body in the asanas very slowly. Perhaps it wouldn't have happened if Iyengar hadn't got such an experience in India. Of course, Iyengar did the things I told you about not in the USA. He had broken the spines of his students in Pune, in India. But he had already become warm and fuzzy in the USA. Otherwise, he would immediately get sued because of injury risk. But if you encounter such a school where the teachers continue to injure their students, leave it and try to find something adequate. Denis Racing. Hello, we are opening a yoga center in Vologda. We would like to become the representatives of your club in our city. Is cooperation with the teachers of other yoga schools allowed in this case? Denis, if you had taken our training course and want to be a representative, it's not a problem. Maybe you mean that you are going to rent the space together with some representatives of other yoga schools and conduct different yoga classes there. Yes, it's appropriate. Maybe in this case you'll be able to succeed as a yoga teacher much faster. But if you hadn't taken our training course yet, we can't guarantee what you would give at your yoga classes. Therefore, we can't place information about you as about our representative on our website. So, take a training course, we will give you a certain basis and recommend adhering to this basis, so that you wouldn't injure someone, as one of the guys wrote earlier, and no one would say that we have strange representatives. Try to understand why we have probably such a conservative position now. Do you think we do it accidentally? No, of course not. Some time ago, we tried to cooperate with different people, but sometimes they do quite unusual things at yoga classes. We can't be responsible for that. So, excuse me, but this is a necessary measure to protect people from inadequate teachers. We demand that our yoga teachers be adequate. Yes, there are sometimes nuances when yoga teachers do strange things from my point of view. Then we tell them, guys, the things you do at yoga classes and workshops are just strange. There had recently been a case in one city where two yoga teachers, smart guys, who have taken our training course, conducted a workshop. This workshop was just a mixture of everything: Kundalini yoga, different energy practices, and so on. It was really a mess. And they promoted this workshop in the framework of the club Om.ru. Who taught them to do it? I don't know. Why do they do it? I wrote to them, guys, what are you doing? For what are you doing this? I hope they heard me, because only a narrow-minded person will conduct an intense workshop in terms of energy, but will not take responsibility for the things the participants of his workshop will do at home. If you conduct a workshop, you should realize what consequences the participants will face. Probably I perceive it painfully, because I've seen a person who has literally gone crazy doing yoga. Maybe he had certain prerequisites. But when he began to do strong energy practices, he has gone really crazy. Believe me, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. People do seemingly the same technique in the same aspect and amount, but then suddenly someone starts having mental problems. Believe me, this is very bad. So, if someone isn't ready, you shouldn't give him some techniques. And moreover, never experiment with the techniques of different yoga schools within one workshop. Don't do it. Then Denise asks about collaborative activities together with the teachers of other yoga schools. I advise you to look at the representation of our club in Almaty. Yakov Fishman created a very good club, probably one of the best in Almaty. They have the representatives of different yoga schools there. Yakov and other two yoga teachers are responsible only for our club. But there are all the types and schools of yoga in their club, and they peacefully coexist. So this is normal for the vast majority of clubs. Vladislav asked the question, can yoga help to adjust atlas? Vladislav, I am surprised. People who promote the concept that misalignment of an atlas happens at birth and then it suffers don't understand the physiology. Your spine moves in all the directions during the day. If you do yoga, you'll make your spine move however you like. That's why twisting yoga poses and back bends are used to influence the whole spine. And if you do yoga, everything will be fine with your atlas. Sometimes I face the people who say, come to us, we'll adjust your atlas. But I know how the spine really works. The doctor will adjust your atlas from his point of view, but in a month, your atlas will return to the same position where it had been before you visited the doctor, because your way of life and physical activity directly affect your spine position. So, you'll have to visit the doctor who adjusted your atlas every 2 months or even every month. That's why first you should change your lifestyle and begin to do adequate physical exercise. Then everything will be fine with your atlas. Then Vladislav describes the following problem. After practicing the plow pose, my eyes began to see worse and I have toothache. What's wrong? What would you recommend? I don't know who is your yoga teacher because it's pointless to hope that you'll have some changes after practicing one asana. Once one person wrote to me that he had been doing one asana for about an hour. What for? What for is it necessary to do an asana during an hour? You should consider it in general, what yoga sequence you do and what consequences arise. Probably you do inadequately yoga, or maybe your yoga teacher is just inadequate, but you can't blame an asana for some. Paul asked the question, how much is it bad for karma to teach martial arts? It depends on what you will teach, because martial arts are a good thing at a certain stage of development. You can get rid of just the tons of karma if you practice more or less adequate type of martial arts. But there are inadequate ones. It's a very big topic. If you are a teacher, it's important what worldview you will share with your students. One of my friends was a quite well-known karate teacher. I said it in the past tense because at a certain stage, when one of his best students killed another one and went to prison for many years, this teacher stopped teaching because he realized that it would lead him nowhere. It's very important what basis you give your students. If you tell them about karma and that their action will come back to them later in one way or another, people will develop no worse than in yoga. I know in some kinds of martial arts, people begin to do yoga after achieving a certain dan or a rank. They have made it, roughly speaking. So, this is a good thing. The only question is how and what for you'll teach. But you can achieve much doing this. Paul continues. I think that yoga and martial arts have the same roots. Can dharma have karma? As for the roots, maybe you are right. It depends on different categories of people. Martial arts will be closer for kshatriyas, whereas yoga will be closer for the Brahmins. The Brahmins are not interested in fighting in order to battle. Their life position is quite different. They don't need to fight for a number of reasons. Of course, I mean karma. And I didn't quite understand the question, can dharma have karma? Yes, of course, if you propagate the dharma, you accumulate karma to be connected with dharma in future lives. So, it's logical. Ivan Yeremin asked the question, is powerful promotion of yoga in Russia necessary today? Are talented promoters necessary? I, or even you, don't get to decide whether it's necessary or not. It resulted from the fact whether people are interested in these talented yogis, as you said. If the society matures to have high qualified teachers, they will appear. But such teachers also live even now. Today there are a lot of incarnations of great teachers in our world, but they haven't already identified themselves as such until the end. These are the great practitioners of the past who have a physical body and personality in this world. So, they live, they do yoga, but they haven't already identified themselves as great teachers until the end. The fact whether they will awake and reveal the huge reserves they have accumulated depends first of all on the people on this planet. If their students whom they had in the past lives want to find a teacher, these teachers will have to awake and teach them. That's why we don't get to decide it. It depends on whether people would like to be engaged in self-development or they would like to turn on the TV and watch serials. It's their choice. The reality that will appear in front of them depends on the choices they make. Pavel Sherbakov, I have an important question. How important is to obtain permission to teach yoga in terms of karma? Where can I get official permission? And is teacher training important? Now, in Russia, yoga teachers conduct classes on the basis of certificates or diplomas, which they get after completing certain training courses. They are legitimate and allow you to teach yoga. But I would look at the bigger picture. Permission to teach is even beyond the competence of the teachers who conduct courses where you'll take training. I say it as I completely understand this issue, because in the past 10 years, since we actively conduct teachers training courses, I've seen a lot of guys who tried to become yoga teachers. Many of them succeed in it, and many have already become leading teachers. But here, everything depends on certain subtle structures which only a person can discover on his own. What do I mean? Sometimes a person gives priority to making money on the path of teaching and thinks that he'll earn money just as someone. So he'll follow the example of the yoga teacher who is successful in economic terms. But take my word for it, the money a yoga teacher makes is always a consequence. The point is that if you want to get an approval or permission, as you say, first of all, you should become an altruistic person. Altruism opens almost all the doors on the path of yoga teaching. You can become a wealthy person if you make efforts, because for some people yoga is really a business which is very successful, I guess. But it's a double-edged sword. People will come to your classes and pay for it just as you came to someone's classes and paid for it in your past life. Roughly speaking, you will only burn up the karma you accumulated once. But you'll hardly create the potential for the future if making money remains paramount for you. Unfortunately, there are some yoga teachers training courses where they teach management in terms of making money. We also teach management during the course. But it's about self-promotion in social media, because you can't survive without it now. So you'll have to do it. But if you show your altruism on a subtle level and put it into practice in this material world, you'll gradually become wealthy after a while. And your altruism can be an unshakable foundation, because the so-called altruism, or serving society, is what is called Raja Yoga. Someone says that Raja Yoga is service to God. That's true, but you should see God in every person around you. And sitting under a tree and meditating on some deity you've never seen and heard isn't the best path for most of our contemporaries, believe me. Yes, there is a category of people who practice such service from life to life. So they have some deity that makes their heart beat faster and tears flow. Probably you found the deity to which you sought in your previous lives. So in this life you'll also concentrate on this deity and won't need anything else. And it's an open issue if it's reasonable and altruistic. How will your meditation on a deity under a tree help the society? And will it really help? If you meditate under a tree and develop some social projects, then perhaps it will be good. But if you are closed in your own little world and stay there, probably it's not the best choice. But in fact, to each his own. I hope I answered your question. Talented promoters will succeed only if they're altruistic. All the rest will disappear sooner or later. You can't imagine how many people who try to do yoga have passed in front of me in the past 20 years. Probably it's about a few thousands. They could stay on the path of yoga during 2, 3, 5 or maybe 10 years in this life, but then they began to do other things which they found more simple and interesting, or their family sucked them into its sewage swamp so that they couldn't escape from there for decades. Everyone walks his own path. Moreover, the person's contact with yoga in this or that life depends on his karma. You can't decide, I'll do yoga. It will be a decision of your mind. Actually, the time when you'll be able to practice yoga depends on how much you did for yoga in the past lives. For example, if you only did yoga during many lives, then you will only do yoga in this life too. The lady who has recently asked a question works at meat packing plant, and nevertheless she thinks of yoga. In theory, this could be possible. I know people who were also connected with meat industry, but in yoga, they have achieved not just a lot, but they have a very active stand concerning the dissemination of knowledge about yoga. So this may occur. Actually, it happened because in the past life, people accumulated a certain potential which manifested itself in the meat industry in this life. But it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's important how a person overcame this stage, what conclusions he made, and how he continues to live. This is the most important thing. Dmitry writes, "It's nice to see Katerina in the chat room." Dmitry, I'm glad that you're so happy about Ekaterina's presence. I'm glad for you. And Dmitry turns out to be a fan of Kate. Oh, Dmitry, probably you don't understand what I mean by a fan. Dmitry, I hope you'll be able to become a yoga practitioner and not to be someone's fan, but to overcome your energy problems on your own, so that you needn't concentrate on someone to improve your mood. I hope you'll be able to improve your mood on your own with the help of yoga or some other methods of serving the society. Someone unknown asked the question, "You put your lectures online for a wide audience, and I often notice that you don't raise certain questions on purpose. Do you have disciples whom you give advanced practices?" I have no disciples. I have the associates and colleagues with whom we move together almost in the same way on the path of self-development. Now, it's unrealistic to have disciples in Russia for two main reasons. If you gain a better understanding of this issue, you'll realize that modern Western man isn't ready for internal practices, and a teacher or a guru as such is necessary only if a person does internal practices. As for the external practices, any Hatha Yoga instructor will help you. I mean an instructor, but not a teacher or a guru. So, all the problems begin when a person goes deep into himself, and in this case a teacher or guru is necessary. But it's almost impossible to do internal practices in Russia for a number of reasons. Perhaps if I reincarnated in India in this life and lived there, actually, I would hate to reincarnate in modern India, because I reincarnated in India many times. When I come to Varanasi, or Benares as it was called, I just have tears in my eyes. What they have done to the city. My tears flow when I look at it. I remember Benares very well. Apparently, I have a strong karmic connection with it as I spent many lives there. But what they have done to this city is just unthinkable. They have created big landfills on the shore of the Ganga so that all the garbage will be washed out to the river in the rainy season. It's a terrible consumer attitude. Okay, let's not talk about the Ganga. But I'm just going to India again with a group on Saturday. And we are going to Varanasi and the Ganga again. So on Sunday we'll have to see this mess again. Well, Benares is a sensitive subject for me. So if I reincarnated in India in this life, yes, it's possible. There's such system that implies that a person needs a teacher or a guru who will guide him through internal practices, but it's very difficult in this world. When people encounter some practices, very few people can realize why a particular event occurs, why they are sad about some events, why they are encouraged to look at themselves in one way or another. People are not ready, unfortunately, it's very difficult. So, people in our club are associates, and I can't say that I'm someone's teacher. It even sounds very strange. The next question. What do you think about autumn? Okay, guys, today we discuss the issues concerning yoga teaching. We talk about how to become a yoga teacher or what is the difference between some teacher training courses. And by the way, let me tell you about the difference between the teacher training courses. The first difference concerns the person who will teach you. Much depends on the leading teacher, the person who supports it in terms of energy. Very much depends on him. Secondly, you should consider the concept they uphold, that is their life position. If they say nothing about altruism, it's better not to choose such a course. It's important how people position themselves in life. So try to find something that will resonate with you, because all the schools are different. And all of them must exist. Today, one man has written about the school where the teachers just injured their students. Please understand, such schools are necessary. You may perceive my words inadequately, but try to understand. If some strange people do strange things, as you say, injure someone, they are necessary. They exist because there are consumers of the results of their creativity, roughly speaking. So, there are some people who are to come to their school to get injured. I know this sounds a little strange, but understand, any school exists only because there are people who need it. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just reality. Now, I'm not considering the concept of good and evil. Of course, it's clear that 99% of people who will look at such a school will say, "What are they doing? It's evil. They create bad karma." I can't take responsibility to say that they accumulate bad karma because it's harmony. This is equivalent to the situation with a frog and a snake that live in one swamp. One has got the karma to eat the other one, and the other one has got the karma to be eaten. You can interfere, beat the snake with a stick, but if the frog has got such karma, another snake will still eat this frog. I understand that the people who never thought that all the events were logical and appropriate won't understand what I'm talking about. But this is a harsh reality. That's why all the trends and schools are necessary. The question is, do you need it? Do you need to go there? And do you need to condemn them? If you plan to stay on the path of yoga more than 2 or 3 years, never condemn other people who follow their own path. This is a foundation. Never condemn anyone. It's a certain basis. If you condemn someone without realizing why a person does a certain thing and says something, you begin to form limitations in your inner world. For example, one person tells another one certain things, and another person doesn't know why he was said it. Probably he was said something unpleasant so that he will think about a certain issue and understand where he is moving. But he drew conclusions and put a label on that person. In the future, he will never understand this issue in this life until the situation changes, and it will be a long procedure. When you condemn someone without knowing why he or she acts in such a way, you form a specific inner block of understanding this problem because you've already put a label. The fact is that you'll have to become an expert in different directions in yoga, whether you like it or not. You should understand even why a person injures someone or why certain events happen. But when you've put a label, you've limited yourself, so you'll become narrow-minded regarding yoga. That's why it's recommended not to condemn anyone. I'd like to tell you about one man. I always forget his name. Not so long ago, a curly-haired man from India left this world. He was a very famous guru. He was able to materialize different things. I have just forgotten his name. I hope someone will write his name in the chat room. So, he was very famous. And once he said one great thing. It's really valuable if someone criticizes you. It's just very valuable because they take away your karma and they'll have to deal with it. It's valuable. But there's a chance that the karma will squash them. When I see some people criticize others or sling mud at them, to be honest, I feel compassion for them because I know how the law of karma works in this world. And the law of karma definitely come to them and squash them so that they won't find it funny. So when you do something against someone, you must have the courage to experience all the things you put on yourself as a burden. And there's a chance you would hate it. So if you see a frog and a snake, don't interfere in their relationship, believe me. It would be better both for you and them. They will be able to fulfill their karma. Then there will be a certain harmony. But once again, I'm talking about things that are not meant for the average listener. Not everyone will understand me. You need to have some experience on the path of yoga to understand that you mustn't put a label good or evil based on your mind. Until you don't understand the energies on a subtle level, and if we go even further, until you know the past lives of a person in terms of samadhi, you won't draw the right conclusions. You'll come to the false conclusion, put a label, and then you'll have to suffer. Herman asks the question, Andrey, why is it important for yoga teachers to do something for the world? Can you tell me, only conducting Hatha yoga classes can be service? It's a good question, Roman. Indeed, if you don't promote altruism, you'll give up doing Hatha yoga sooner or later. If you teach only Hatha yoga, you should do internal practices. Then you'll be able to transform the karma, or rather the energy, of your students that they will bring to you. For example, there's a good practitioner. I won't mention his name, but I can count the yoga teachers conducting very intense classes on the fingers. They don't care about their energy. They promote a little bit strange theories, but physical load they give to their classes is very intense. And the experience has shown that they gradually get injuries that don't allow them to teach anymore. They get injuries because they give austerities to their students, and these austerities are accumulated in their bodies. If they don't have time to transform these austerities, the diseases or injuries literally make them abandon the path of yoga 100%. There are a lot of such examples, believe me. That's why in this case the altruism I was talking about, that is, the attempt to serve the society, is like a lifesaver that will help you not just to walk the path of yoga consciously, but you'll be able to stay on this path and meet your students from the past lives, whom only you can give knowledge. That's important. For example, imagine a new yoga teacher. He has a certain level of knowledge, and it will be different in 10 years. So his level of knowledge will change. And in 20 years, it will change even more, and so on. Of course, it happens if he makes efforts. In fact, when he has been practicing for 10 years, only his students from past lives who can understand him just at this level can come to him. When he is at the next level, other people will come to him to get other knowledge, and so on. The more he will evolve, the better knowledge people would like to get from him. But it will be other people. People who are still interested in the knowledge of beginner level won't come to the yoga teacher who is at the next stage. That's why it's important to stay on the path of yoga teaching. And altruistic service is an effective way to stay on that path. So, service, not some mythical gods, but the society, in the way you found. So, I hope I answered your question. Daniel asks the question, Andrey, how deeply should a yoga teacher study scriptures? If he doesn't study scriptures, he won't stay on the path of yoga for long. But it's an open question how deeply he should study it. What is the degree of depth? 3 pages depth or 50 pages depth? But it's better to understand this issue for the following reason. When you open a book and begin to read, concentrating on a scripture, whether you like it or not, you'll resurrect the qualities of the personality you developed in the past lives, encountering this scripture. When I answered this question, I remembered the story of my relationship with the text Yoga Vasistha. I really respect this scripture. Nevertheless, I see how Advaita Vedanta has developed an illusionary scheme on the basis of this scripture, roughly speaking. Because when representatives of Advaita Vedanta translated Yoga Vasistha, they included the term accidentally or coincidentally. A crow is landing on a coconut tree, and a coconut is simultaneously coincidentally falling. The concept of coincidence has one main feature. It abolishes the integrity of the law of karma. So it says, this is not karma, it coincidentally happened. It's like an explanation for the fact that an event happened by chance. Actually, all the events have a certain background. Nevertheless, when I face Yoga Vasistha, I literally have tears because I realize how deep this teaching is and how well I know it. But the Yoga Vasistha, which came to our world after many thousands of years and was translated by the translators who understood it in their own way, contains probably 30% of the Yoga Vasistha which I once knew and felt with all my being, roughly speaking. But this text is very good. So you need to read the scriptures to find the qualities of the personality you developed from life to life. Imagine there are a number of lives, roughly speaking. For example, during one of your lives, you studied some Buddhist texts. And if you study them in this life, you'll resurrect your best qualities from that past life. For example, you studied Yoga Vasistha in another past life. Great! If you read it, you'll also bring certain qualities to this life, so you'll just improve awareness. The question of whether you'll discover this knowledge or not depends on what intentions you have in this life, what clashes and passions you have. If you watch TV series, you'll resurrect nothing from inside. When you are outside, you close the way inside. In order to go inside, at least you should reduce the degree of informational influence on your consciousness to some extent. You don't need this influence. I say so because one yoga teacher has recently written to me, Andrey, I did yoga, not bothering anyone. Yes, I let my guard down and didn't work with my energy. At some point, I noticed that I became addicted to watching TV series. So, he is watching TV series non-stop. It happened because at some point he missed the moment when he could still affect his energy by yoga practice. The external energy made him to pay attention to it. So, the illusion that became stronger than his intention was formed. In this case, the books about internal practices can also help. Anyway, I hope I answered your question about reading scriptures. Svetlana asked the question, how do you manage to conduct yoga teacher training courses of the first and second year at the same time in summer? Do the participants pass each other at the lectures? Different teachers give lectures at different times, in different places. That's why there are no problems. Oksana asked the question, do you plan to open yoga teacher training course in St. Petersburg? Oksana, actually St. Petersburg is a mysterious city for me. I don't always understand the things they are doing there. That's why I don't know if the course will be opened there. If a good team of the guys who will be able to organize it appear, it's no problem, we can help. Because now we have teacher training courses in Stavropol, Volgograd, Novosibirsk and Yekaterinburg. And the guys are also going to open the course in Ukraine, in Kiev. But I think they are not ready yet because they have few competent teachers who could take responsibility, because conducting yoga teacher training course means an entirely different degree of responsibility. If the teachers are listening to me now, they will understand. It's hard to some extent to conduct a yoga class, but you can recover. It's hard to hold a workshop, but you can also recover. And conducting teacher training course is much more difficult than conducting a workshop. Why? Firstly, the number of hours that a teacher spends with the students is huge, 200 hours. And you are constantly in touch with the students to varying degrees. Secondly, we give a lot of essential knowledge during the course that makes certain energy layers interact. This also influences. So, it's very hard. It's very difficult to recover after the course because strong energy exchange happens and remains for a long time. Therefore, if adequate guys who will be able to take responsibility appear in St. Petersburg, it's no problem. Nobody has come to us yet. Now they are dealing only with some local issues. Ruslan, with the lectures, my daughter falls asleep fast in my arms. Well, Ruslan, I hope you'll do yoga together with your daughter. Then you'll not only fall asleep well, but help someone else on this planet. As for the previous question, I hope I answered you. Different yoga teacher training courses are necessary because there are different listeners. So you shouldn't say that some of them are good and some are bad. Choose the course that corresponds to your level of development. Then gradually you'll probably take some other courses. So you will develop. If you think that our course is interesting for you, it's no problem, come to us. We'll try to help you to succeed as a yoga teacher, but not only give you a certificate. What is my main objective? I'll explain in a few words. As I have been participating in conducting different yoga teacher training courses for 10 years, I've accumulated some statistics. And there was one thing that was always touching me to the core. I know how yoga teaching can positively influence the society and the life of the yoga teacher. And when I see that a yoga teacher begins to teach and then leaves this path, I realize how much he loses. So he loses to his clashes, ambitions or passions. No matter what he loses, but he loses. Perhaps he was close to success and he would become a good yoga teacher soon. Then the people who have a karmic connection with him would come to his classes. But when I began conducting the research, I realized that, for example, after 10 years, only 2 people out of 20 who took yoga teacher training course at best remain yoga teachers. These are the statistics we had 10 years ago. And as they learned from me partially during that course, I realized that it's my problem. So I transfer knowledge so badly that people leave the path. It's my fault. And in 10 years, we have significantly improved our course. That will help many yoga teachers to succeed as persons and good, competent teachers. We do a lot for that. And my goal at the course is maximally to motivate a person to study the essence of yoga within himself, become competent, and be able to help and benefit the people who can hear and understand only him. For example, there are Andrey Verba, Ekaterina Androsova, Roman Kosarev, Denis Malinov, and many other guys who give good lectures in our club. Anton Chudin and Darya Chudina also give very good lectures. But whatever good lectures we give, there are people who will never hear us because we don't have a karmic connection with them. Probably they will hear and understand only those who hear me now. Perhaps you only begin thinking about yoga teacher training course, but in fact only when you tell somebody something, they will hear you and will never hear us. It's due to karmic connections. I'll give you an illustrative example. There's a huge tree and each has branches. and each branch has leaves. We can say that the leaves are certain persons. If these persons are on one branch, that is one karmic or energy line, they will have a connection. If they are on another branch and even close to that branch, they won't have any connection. That's why the energy or karmic connection is very important. In ancient times, teachers deliberately created karmic connections with the people who had a lot of illusions. So the teachers intentionally tried to exchange energy with them so that they could stay on the path of yoga. If the teacher knew that someone would leave the path of yoga and wouldn't teach after a while, he used certain techniques that allow the person to stay on the path because they will meet in the future lives anyway. And maybe only in the future lives this person will continue the path of yoga. Elena Romanovskaya. Hello, tell me please, why does it happen that I, like a sponge, absorb the weaknesses of others? It began after your lectures and yoga classes. I'm a beginner. I think it's not because of the lectures. It happens because you increased your energy. And when you get energy from yoga, you begin to feel all the energy leaks you have. We have a picture of a yogi on our website. There are the holes next to each chakra in his energy body. And certain passions on which the energy can be spent are depicted schematically next to each hole. If a person begins to get extra energy, and he has certain passions, more energy begins to leak. So he gets the energy that he begins to spend. Roughly speaking, now it's time for you to be more conscious about the system of chakras. So, now we are trying to find this picture. And Ekaterina Androsova says that yogi from India about whom I told you is Sati Sai Baba. He is a very famous person. At the time, some people also slandered mud at him. But many years ago, when I first went to Nepal and India, probably it was in 2000, I was surprised how popular Sai Baba was. At that time, I didn't know him well. So, when I went to India and Nepal, I was just amazed at his popularity. 90% of the cars we saw had the portrait of Sai Baba, so that he expanded the space with his energy, I guess. I don't know the motivation of these people. The picture I told you about has appeared, and now I can explain Elena the things happened to her when she began to do yoga. Please, look at this picture. Here you can see the so-called chakras. They are responsible for certain passions. Yoga has activated your energy that began to leak. It leaks to the passions for which you didn't have enough energy before. What should you do in this case? It's very easy. Just try to understand that when you satisfy a particular desire, actually you feed someone who consumes this energy from the other side. It's someone whom you can't see. You can watch the film about this subject. It's called Moscow 2017. Paradoxically, it was made by the TNT channel. I was shocked that Roman Petrenko has implemented this project. Of course, he deserves respect because they just dared to touch upon this issue. And Roman Petrenko, the director of TNT channel, took responsibility for that. Moreover, there's even an opinion that he also acted in this film in the role of one manager. So they made this film. You can find it on our website. Just type Moscow 2017. This film shows the esoteric concept of the larva, the so-called energy parasite, that has the right to exist. I don't claim it's true or false, but life experience has shown that it works. So the people who become addicted for some reason really don't want it. There's speculation that someone is interested in satisfying a passion more than a person who has it. And this schematic picture is just about it. Probably you can find it on our website. So, you shouldn't blame yoga for the fact that you begin to absorb the faults of other people, as you say. You initially had this problem, and yoga just activated it. So restrain yourself. It's a good way to learn to control yourself. Lord asked the question, hello, can a person be a yogi if he doesn't believe in God? So he is an atheist. Yes, it's no problem. The recognition of God as such may come to a person not at once. Probably someone needs decades to understand if God exists or not. There are some people who are completely atheists. They have the right. And of course, they can do yoga. Understand my position. Do you remember I told you about a snake and a frog? So, I can't say if it's bad or good. This is the reality we have. If I say it's bad or good, I'll assess a person and put a label on him. It's completely incorrect. I don't need it, and I have no right to do that. So, if you think that you are at this level, it's no problem. He writes, I believe that yoga is useful only as gymnastics, and that's all. You may think so, it's no problem. You can notice when you come to yoga class, you are in a certain mood and have certain energy, but after the yoga class, you have a different energy and a different level of awareness. Therefore, if you continue doing yoga, perhaps you'll broaden your horizons after some time. Why do I often say, thank the gods, developing, evolving, and so on? Perhaps this Vedic conception of the gods is some kind of illusion or egregor, but if it works for someone, even as psychosomatics or as a placebo in medicine, it's no problem. Why does someone deny it? If it works for someone, let them believe in it. It's not a problem at all. If you don't believe, it's also not a problem. No matter with what intentions you begin to do yoga. It's important whom you'll become after you'll begin to broaden your horizons in yoga. If you broaden your outlook, you'll surely change. And I can't say that you'll firmly believe in God of some religion. Yoga isn't connected with any religion at all. Each religious denomination claims that it's the only one that is true. You can take a trip to India and you'll see that there are thousands of cults and all of them are connected with yoga, but all of them are different. That's why I shouldn't say yoga is connected with only a certain movement. Lord continues. Of course, it's interesting to listen to the tales about chakras and energy, but I think it's something like folklore. No problem. You may think in your own way. You can attend yoga classes together with people who will have diametrically opposed views. It doesn't matter. It's important what person you'll become. Dmitry asked the question. I have signed up for yoga teacher training course, but the doctors detected sacral hernia. Should I take the course? What's the problem? The problem you have isn't the reason for abandoning something. Do you know how effective the life of Alex Hezestein from Moldova became? Now he is a leading teacher of injury-free yoga. He had a serious accident, probably his spine was even broken. I don't remember what exactly happened. And he could recover only through yoga. He was said, if you start just walking, consider yourself lucky. And when he started walking, he was said, it's a miracle, but that's all. He went on, he began to do yoga and achieved a lot. Alex. Good evening. I know you've told about it before, but please, could you tell again about the developing memory? Is it a tool for reinforcing flashes or a help in the accumulation of objective experience of the passions? It's better to pay attention not to the external memory, which often contributes to reinforcing passions. Unfortunately, experience has shown that people who have good memory choose some strange types of yoga. There have already been a lot of precedents when the person who has a good memory often remembers some strange things. The person who has less good memory perhaps ignores these strange things, so he doesn't remember them and walks the path of yoga more adequately, not moving from side to side like a fallen leaf on the sidewalk, so he isn't going from one extreme to the other. That's why it is better to develop a deep memory, that is, the memory you develop from life to life. And it's possible. At a certain stage, many of the teachers begin to use this memory. When they give lectures, they focus not on the material they prepared for the lecture. They scan the space and feel what their students need to hear. So they say certain essential things. That's possible. Sergey asked the question, should a new yoga teacher devote much time to the art of creating yoga sequences, or should he spend his time on something else? Sergey, you must be a comprehensively developed person. If you teach only asanas, you won't be economically prosperous, because 50% of your income will be formed by your activity as a lecturer at workshops. So, the seminars or workshops generate approximately 50% of the yoga teacher's income. That's why you should develop as a lecturer, but you should also be good at asanas. The next question. What yoga sequence would you recommend for opening lotus pose? You can't open lotus pose. Either you do it or not, but you open your hip joints. You should also work with your knees and feet. You also need to straighten your ankles to do Padmasana adequately. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. You can use any yoga sequences that affect the legs, any sequences. I can't say that only hip opening sequence will help you. In no case. You should do yoga comprehensively, then your development will be better. Pavel asked the question, is the future that we see a variation from the space of variations? No, not quite. As my experience of the future has shown, it's much more complicated. You create the future by your thoughts. So the things you think about systematically every day create the vector of your life. And it will go through the reality you think about. This is interrelated. The magic of money, when people think just about money and money and money, is based on this idea. And they really receive money. It's like in the movie The Secret. One of the characters said, I dreamt of a mansion 5 years ago, and when I was looking through the old photos, I saw that I lived in the same house, which was on the photo I used as a motivator. I forgot about it, but when I realized it, I had tears in my eyes. What an achievement! It's just great. But it's crazy to have an intent to get some material things. I mean, creating the desire to get some choice, even if it's a mansion, a car, or a beautiful wife. The mansion will bring you a huge amount of problems. The bigger the mansion, the more rooms you'll have to clean, the more material obsession you have, the more hang-ups will be in your mind. And as for a beautiful car, all the advertised cars are either disposable or very expensive and require huge investments of money. It's sad to look at our poor guys. Now my oldest son is taking an interest in cars like all his peers. And these naive and silly guys are shown the cars with big wheels that have very small rubber layer, which will be destroyed on every bump. And they will surely have to take such a car to the tire service every month to repair the discs and buy new tires. They are just misled and they don't understand it. Corporations lay certain patterns in their mind so that they will be biological batteries of these automobile corporations. Okay. Let's get back to our topic. It would be naive to think that material things would bring you happiness. That will never happen. Believe me, if all the material things you have don't serve your righteous activity, they will bring on the problems. Believe me, that's true. When a person wants a material thing because of his delusion and then gets it, he will suffer 100%. Only if you form your thoughts with an altruistic motivation, it's the right thing to do. That will benefit you and the whole society around. The fact is that you shouldn't treat the reality in this way. But you can change a lot by the power of thoughts and intention you form. Literally, you can go through the layer of the realities at the angle that will maximally meet your intentions. I know someone's intentions are connected with money and power. Of course, if they form such intentions, they'll get it. But the problem is that they'll have to be held accountable for this money and power. When a person wants to be on the top of the pyramid of a consumer, political or some other leader, he doesn't understand that this pyramid is literally built with his own bones. He lived many lives to achieve this objective. But the problem is that when he achieves this objective, he has already lost it. And then he'll have to work it off during many lives to achieve at least something in the future. The concept of the modern selfish society states that karma doesn't exist. They say, yes, there is incarnation, but there is no karma. We don't want to believe in it. Of course, how can they believe in it? They stop at nothing. They got blood not only on their hands, but also on the neck. Of course, they can't believe in it, in the law of karma. But Buddha said, when a person doesn't believe in the law of karma, this is mental illness. So, unfortunately, mentally inadequate people deny it. Elvira asked the question, how to find the job of a yoga teacher after yoga teacher training course? Should I submit my resume to yoga centers, health clubs? How to seek employment without experience? Thank you. The things you've written are right. Make a resume in electronic form, attach your certificate to it and send this to some fitness clubs. New teachers more often begin with it. This is a new experience. Or you can find like-minded people in your city, no matter what type of yoga they practice. You can tell them, guys, if we work in fitness clubs, we'll get paid just peanuts. That's true. In modern fitness clubs, yoga teachers get paid really very little. When I hear how much the guys get paid for the classes, I just don't understand it. When a person is paid 1,000 rubles and he spends about 100 rubles to get to this fitness club, I find it a little strange. So, you can unite, find the place for yoga classes and rent it together. This is the best way. Of course, at first, you'll pay yourself for it, but if you promote it a smart way, you'll make it popular. But once again, you should do it together with a few people who are interested in the development of yoga. Ideally, they should be altruistic. Then not only you will make efforts, but your altruism will be supported on a subtle level. I don't want to talk about some mythical things, but it really works. So, if your intentions are pure 100%, you'll be helped to implement what you want. And if you have your own space for yoga classes, it's the best option. Then the main thing is not to quarrel. This is the second problem that arises when people accumulate ambition and pride and begin to argue to prove something and eventually destroy everything. Unfortunately, there are a lot of examples when people unite in order to do something, but then their own ambitions make them destroy everything. Even our club as such is the fourth version. So, the club Om Dadru is the fourth attempt to unite and begin to do something. The previous three attempts led nowhere. The ambitions won and destroyed everything, or rather, almost everything. The part of the team that remained did everything again and even better. I hope I answered your question. Natalia, thanks. Natalia, you too. Thank you for doing yoga and trying to be conscious. It's very important for our modern society. Don John writes, I'm practicing yoga and going to become a yoga teacher. I've got carried away by yoga practice from the book by Andrey Verba, Yoga of 8 Circles. What do you think? What is it? The author considers it harmful. Maybe when Andrey Verba wrote the book Yoga of 8 Circles, I was also trying to study his creative work. It's really creative work, I didn't misspeak. I have great respect for Andrey, although I don't share the techniques he promotes. He is sincerely working on the development of yoga, but in his own way. I had been studying his work before he began to use pendulums. And then he created Yoga 23. It was probably in the late 90s, and in the beginning of 21st century. Please understand, every teacher, including Andrey Verba, is necessary for a particular category of students. If people who understand Andrey and learn from him came to me, it would be very difficult for me to work with them, not because I'm an undeveloped yogi, but because I'm interested in internal practices. But the people who learn from him are interested in internal processes, putting a leg behind the head or doing some difficult twist yoga poses. So he pulls a very peculiar audience, and that's fine. So the harmony occurs. Each is in the right place. But once again, I respect Andrey because the audience he pulls would be very difficult for me. Maybe you don't understand what I'm talking about. The adherents of Yoga 23 will say, who are you to compare yourself to Andrey Verba? I don't dispute the adherents of Yoga 23. This stream is not for you. You must learn from Andrey Verba and do only the things he advises. Anyway, what are you doing here? Listen to the lecture of Andrey Verba. Remember the things he says while he is still in the body. If he leaves it in 20 years, you'll cry, I hope Andrey won't leave even in 20 years. Probably it was an appropriate joke. So, please, go to the forum of Yoga 23 and discuss something close for you. That's why, if you think that this book resonates with you, maybe you had a deep karmic connection with Andrey in the past life. Then learn from him. If you are interested in the things we do, come to us. We are different, but move almost in one direction, using different tools. Next question. I was reading the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. I've read only half of it and can't read anymore. The miracles described there are similar to Indian films where human capacity is obviously exaggerated. I understand you. Of course, it will be hard to believe in it until you begin to practice yoga on your own. But don't get me wrong. I've already been communicating with people who easily attain samadhi for many years. One of my Guruji in India practices samadhi. Actually, he isn't practicing it now because he's 90 years old, but when he was about 70, he was still young and high-spirited. He regularly practiced samadhi. What does it mean? There's a video on the internet where he was buried in the ground, pot with water, and he was staying there for hours. He was put into the glass cube and he stayed there and allegedly disappeared out of the cube. I really know this man. I lived with him and talked to him. So, when you see such people with your own eyes, you see the reality. When you have your own, the so-called real experience, when you can periodically travel to other worlds, when you can meet the great practitioners of the past in the inner world, and try to get their advice about a particular issue, you begin to believe in certain things that are beyond this material world. But once again, if you feel that this is just unreal fairy tales, put this book as far as you can and deal with your material things. It will be easier for us because when the materialists begin to do yoga and their mind is accustomed to touch something first and only then to believe it, that's difficult. This doesn't mean that we communicate only with naive ignoramuses. who are ready to believe in any nonsense. Actually, yoga, you can encounter very little nonsense. In yoga, everything is very specific. If you do it, you'll get the results. It's objective. Yes, the book of Yogananda Paramahansa is fantastic in terms of coarse material world. But actually, I respect Yogananda Paramahansa. I'm sure the things he describes really happened in India. So, great practitioners really exist. Nika asked the question, what yoga practice do you find the most important and efficient for transforming the energy after conducting a yoga class? The practice that will be relevant for you depends on what level you are. I can't tell you what I do, because it's unlikely to be relevant and interesting for other people. But sometimes I have to do quite harsh practices and experience austerity when I feel that if I don't deal with this energy, I'll have certain health problems. I just know from experience that problems will arise, because now I'm in the stage when the health suffers from energy first of all. The external energy affects aura and the health suffers. But as for the most beginners, the energy affects the consciousness. Roughly speaking, when a person communicates with others a lot, his energy will change and his worldview will become unusual for him. Unfortunately, this happens, so you have to choose your own tools that will help you. Everyone chooses different tools. For example, pouring water helps someone. I heard one guy said, after pouring, my head just becomes clear. I assume that's possible. Walking in the woods helps someone sits under a tree, someone does pranayama or does prostrations, someone does very difficult asanas. Each person will have his own tool that will be effective for him. Much also depends on the location of the energy problem. At some stage, you'll learn to diagnose yourself and apply this or that tool. Shatkarmas help very well. But most importantly, you shouldn't go to extremes in using any tool. Communication with the associates is also a very good thing. If you have such friends, try more often to communicate with them. It helps to recover very well if the friends are adequate. So, try to seek your own path. Ivan Korolев. Andrey is right about the atlas. Okay. The next question. Were there any doctors at your yoga teacher training course? Yes, there were a lot of yoga teachers who were also good doctors. There will be some doctors at the course in January, so we have doctors. And these people often choose yoga teaching as a hobby because their medical practice as such creates benefit. But they can't do anything with the energy they get from patients. And if they combine yoga and medical practice, only then perhaps they will remain adequate. I have many examples of the doctors who are very good people, but unfortunately they lead so unrighteous life that it's just hardcore. Okay, let's continue. Ivan Korolев asked the question, what do you think about Ramana Maharshi and Osho? They were the guides for some people. Sergey asked the question. As I understand, not all the teachers who completed yoga teacher training course and tell a wide audience about karma, reincarnation, energy and so on have the experience of what they say. Yes, most likely. But they should say that there's such a concept or a theory that has the examples proving that it's real. It's not the thing which someone has just invented. The life says that most likely there's something to this. You can say, I haven't experienced it yet, but there's such a theory, and it should be followed so that you wouldn't face certain surprises that can impress you very much. The next question. I've noticed that weight training and running give many of the energy effects which yoga can give. Is it correct to promote it together with meditative practice? This is incorrect, because there's a problem. You just have very little experience. Weight training as such makes the body stiffer than more flexible. And if the body becomes stiffer, the mind becomes more conservative. This is the main problem. Moreover, if you mean weight training in the gym where any person can come and use exercise equipment, there will be no good energy there, because it's a public place. If you have your own exercise equipment, perhaps adequate cardio will be good for you. But it's better not to promote it for students so that you wouldn't face it later. If you have begun the path of yoga and the people who come to you want to be on the path of yoga, then give them yoga. If you are teaching in the fitness center, then teach some fitness tools. So, next question. Andrey, can a person join one of your yoga tours if he has very little experience in yoga or doesn't have it at all? No problem. Different guys usually join us. Some of them get acquainted with yoga only during the tour. It's a fact. Sometimes the couples can join us, one partner does yoga and the other one doesn't. During our yoga tours, we don't make everyone do yoga. If you want to do yoga, you can practice together with the group. If you don't want, don't practice. You can go as a tourist. At least, if you go as a tourist, you will see the things which ordinary travel agencies will never show you. It's not profitable for them. For example, this year we will intentionally take the long way. We have added one more day to our program. This year we'll go to the place where Russian tourist groups have never been to. We will go to the village where Milarepa was born and where the temple is built. We will give the lectures about Milarepa directly at the place where he was born. It's relatively close to Sangha. I hope this year Alexei Perchukov will manage to organize it. Alexei Perchukov helps us to organize excellent tours. You can find his site and the tours he organizes on the internet. This person takes a very responsible attitude towards conducting the tours. Of course, there are always some people who criticize the organizers, saying, "Oh, we don't like it." If you don't like the tour, you had to choose it more carefully before. So, you can join us. You'll surely have no problem with us, and we'll have no problems with you. May I ask the question? Can I get yoga teacher certificate in yoga camp hour for volunteering? Please contact Roman Kosarev. Okay, guys, I think there are no more questions. We've already talking for a long time. I planned 1 hour stream, but it turned out to be almost 3 hours. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you again, probably in November. Perhaps we will conduct another stream and talk about yoga teaching in early November. So, if you plan to join our yoga teacher training course, you can do it until the 10th of November. You also can take it online, being in your city, in your country. You can join us and learn in real time. Moreover, we also provide the opportunity to watch all the lectures 3 times. Thank you and see you soon. Om.